been thinking a lot about the realities of being a musician in 2026, and what you all need to realize is that, number one, if you want to be a musician, if you're a creative, you need to do it because you love it, because the likelihood of having significant real success in the industry, and this is from somebody who's been playing music, making music, recording, doing live shows, going to events, changing cities even for this, is very, very low. And realistically, it's very expensive also if you want to properly promote and market your music. What a lot of isn't given credit is that you see these organic, and yeah, you have a lot of tools like social media that you can use, and it's great to have all of that available. But what they don't really tell you is that that isn't enough. And if you're just going to post on social media organically and try to make it, that is a full-time job. You are not just going to post a few times a week. You're going to have to be extremely dedicated to that. You're going to do it across multiple platforms. You're going to need to have a strategy. Likely, you're going to need to build out a team at some point, being able to edit all those. It's a lot. And I'm not saying this to discourage anyone and that you shouldn't try. I think the thing is that a lot of artists see is it's kind of the extremes, right? We all get rubbed in our face the people who are successful. And so you see that, and you see that underdog story, right? You're like, that underdog, that can be me, that's possible. And you should try. I mean, you should, if you're absolutely dedicated, you should make it happen. It's a little disingenuous in some ways, because the people who make it are the vast minority. So you don't usually hear those stories of artists like myself who've tried their entire career, their life, they've been dedicated to it, they absolutely love doing music, they wouldn't change it for anything, but haven't really made it. And even what is making it, because once you make it, you know, you can still fall off, you can still become irrelevant. I think, to me, making it in music, it means that if you want, it could sustain your lifestyle, and so that you could do that full time. Basically, whatever that lifestyle is for you, let's just say 100K is not even really that much, especially if you're in a major city now, but it's a relatively decent baseline that if you could make that, you could probably be okay in most US cities and, you know, survive. And I know some people hear that and say, hey, that's a lot, but you know, when you consider the expenses, the risks that you have as a musician, this is the thing, you know, you don't have an employer who is taking on that risk. You don't have health insurance. You have to get that yourself. You can get sued by people. You're liable for things. You have to watch all your copyrights, the songs that you use it. If you throw a party at your house and someone gets hurt, you know, something can happen. Your live shows, your live events. I mean, there's lots of extra things that come in with it. And when you're doing this, you're a business owner. You have to think of it that way. You're running a business as a musician. You should create your artist under a record label, even if it's just you by yourself. That gives you some level of protections, and you should create separate bank accounts for income that comes in and expenses. You can better protect yourself and get, you know, tax deductions. So it gives you some benefits, like if you're traveling, going on tour, your marketing expenses. But realistically, you know, the people that I'm talking to here, you're gonna have to work a job for a long time. Like, you're gonna be working while working on top of working on top of working. And what's really crazy as a musician, if you want to be successful, it's at least like doing 10 different jobs. Just a few that come to the top of mind is, you know, marketer, you know, social media strategist, content creator, video editor, sound editing. So you're gonna do, you might be doing a producer role, you might be a mix engineer, a mastering engineer, a vocalist. Maybe you're recording electronic equipment, DJ, playing guitar, bass, drums, whatever it might be. Then you need to be a great communicator and networker, where you're going out to events and actively meeting people. So you need to be going to shows in your community where you are connecting with other artists. And that really is still just a real great way to actually be successful in music, at least building a local community, even if it's not your main audience like I was talking about earlier, is just go to other events and support other artists. You can't make it all about you, and you have to give more than you get back. That's why even when I talk in these videos, I mean, there's my journey, there's people that care about that, but you all want something out of it. Just like when, you know, you're looking to someone, you want to get something out of that. Now that might just be knowledge, something that helps you in your journey, something that gives you an emotional connection that gets you through. That's what songs always were for me, and that's why I think, you know, musicians and songwriters are so important, because there's that emotional connection that helps get people through their day and through their week. You know, it's hard out there for a lot of people where, you know, most people now are working 1, 2, 3 jobs and they can barely afford to make a living. And that's why I say when you come back then on top of that, try to be a creative, try to be an artist, it's a tall order, because the amount of work that you have to do as an independent artist to actually be legitimate is extreme. I don't think people are, you know, authentic about the volume of work. And then, you know, it's not complaining about it, it's just reality setting that it's also something it's very hard to turn off. You know, so let's say for like my day job, so I do work in technology, and that's afforded me the ability to try to fund my creative ventures, because if I only did it based on just music, I get streaming royalties and that, and it's just nothing. I do merchandise sales, it's not nearly enough. But if you're really focused on getting those revenue streams, that's one way that you can try to sustain yourself, because you have to think about it beyond just the art and the music. And I think that's one of the really challenging things for a lot of artists, a lot of musicians, is that the professionals understand, you know, yeah, it's about the music, let's make great music. If you're on a big label and you get a team backing you, then okay, you can say, hey manager, go ahead and do this for me. Hey publisher, figure this out. Marketing agency, do this for me. But it's a different story when you're an independent musician, you know, building from the ground up. You're usually doing all the things by yourself. And that's the reality. At some point, you've got to find, you know, either it's your early fans who are really interested in you and they want to support you, or it's just your family or people around you. But also the mistake that a lot of people make with their early social media accounts as far as this path is they try to add all their family members and their friends who may or may not really be into the type of music that they do. And it's great to have that. Like I said, maybe they could in the early days be part of your team, but you have to also be strict, because they can limit you or even cause a lot of damage. So if you start adding a bunch of irrelevant people just because they know you and they'll follow your accounts, that's actually not good for your account, because it's training that algorithm based on those users' behaviors. And so if they're not really relevant, right, if your grandmother follows your account and you know you do heavy metal music, that's probably not the right demographic for you. So I would advise mostly against that, but you do need a support team. And then the best is, you know, you find those early fans who believe in you and can give you some feedback, and you know, who are willing to support you. And you know, when you see somebody who's engaging, you know, offer them more. You know, maybe you offer them free merch, or you do something unique in one of your songs for them, or you shout them out, or you share them. But at some point, you know, you should also ask them if you want something in return, like, hey, can you share this post for me? It would be really helpful. Or, hey, you know, I see that you really enjoy the music. It would really help support if, you know, you see one of these pieces of merchandise that you like, you know, purchase it, or, you know, share it to some people you think would be interested. You know, it's okay to ask, and you can't just think that because you asked one time, not like, don't bombard the same person, you know, time after time. On the other end of the spectrum, one of the biggest issues a lot of artists make is, again, they're takers. So they go from the perspective, I see it all the times in the music and the artist groups that I'm in, and they just say like, hey, my new song is out, check this out. And it's from the perspective of, do something for me, hey, support me, blah blah blah. And it's like, support me. I don't know who you are. You're like a message on the screen, and you're just trying to get me to support your dreams. What value are you providing? Like, where is this coming from? Like, we're all bombarded by things, and what people really want, I think, is a connection to someone else. They want to see either something in themselves that they aspire to, or something they can express through the art that you're doing that maybe they don't know how to create themselves, or a different type of lifestyle that they wish they had. And all of those things are valid, but I think it's important to explore. Early on, you need to experiment with different types of content in your audience and try to really get a feel for, like, why is it that the people who follow your art form actually follow you? What is the reason? What do they like? Do you make happy, exciting music that just makes people enjoy their lives? Or are you on the opposite end of the spectrum? You have sad or depressing music, and you're there for someone in a time of need because of the things that you express and the pain that you can share and go through. I mean, either of those are very valuable, but you just need to understand what you're providing and what you're doing for other people so that you can best reach that audience. And that's really, I think, the key to this is just understanding yourself and then your audience and their needs as well. And people, I think, get a negative perception on that as well, because they'll say, like, oh, just trying to do things to please people, or this, that, the other. And I'm like, well, look, if you're not a professional musician then, because if you're only doing music for yourself, then why are you releasing it to everyone? Why are you putting it online? Why are you trying to get people to stream it? Why do you care that people looked at your videos or not? If you just want to put it out there to put it out there, that's totally fine. But you have to decide, are you just going to be doing this because you like it and you want to show it to a few friends and, it's just a creative outlet for you? That's totally fine. But if you want to be a legitimate musician, identify what are your motives? What's interesting to you? Why do you even want to go down this path? Because it's a long, challenging, arduous path, and I don't think anyone would go through it unless they just really absolutely love music and they're a little bit delirious and they just believe in themselves. And you have to, that's the biggest thing, is the belief in yourself to be able to make it through. There's so many hard times, because I can't tell you, just from my experiences where I've been on the radio, I've had interviews, I had music videos for Fortune 500 companies. You won't even find those on my channel because those things disappeared. I did it. It was blown up, and then people from the company I was at were messaging me, emails. The CEO got a hold of me. All these things, and that passes very quickly. Like, you shouldn't expect that to be a thing that sticks around. I went all in on it, and then what ultimately happened? The time passed. I milked it for as long as I could, 9 months or so. And then what you see is that the world moves on. Now the timing is even faster now. But on the same end of the spectrum, a lot of people, they release a song and they don't stick with it. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to make one post and I did that and move on. I'm guilty of that too, because it's like, as a creative, you want to make songs, you want to create art, you want to do things. That's the fun part. But the extra part is sharing that, like finding ways to get that out into the world. And anyone who's like an actual, like, I'd say, like, physical artist, where you create physical art, they know this, because there's the part where you're actually creating the art, which is the part you might love the most, or not. Maybe you love going to events. And then you gotta get into galleries. So the work of, like, finding the galleries, having a gallery that's going to support you. Do you have to pay for it? Do you get paid to be there? You're there, and then you spend the whole weekend and you traveled somewhere and then you made no sales. That's the reality of it. So you have to love it and find a way to be able to support yourself throughout this journey. And that's why I think it's really important for creatives to find a way to support themselves. You should learn about investing. You should learn about getting different streams of income and, aspire to have some support so that you can invest back in yourself. And if that's not your thing, realize if you want to scale, find somebody who has money, who believes in you, who believes in your mission, and like just really loves what you do. And I don't know, maybe they'll just give you money. I was talking about this recently of there's rich investors that we always talk about ROI, and somebody's like, well, they got that way because they made good investments. Well, I'm like, you know what? Let's say you have money, and let's just say like $10,000 is nothing to you for whatever reason, and you're like, I really love. Let's just say it was like a movie. Let's assume you can make a movie for $10,000. Really, it'd be more like $100,000 or more. But that amount of money isn't much to you, and you're like, I want to see number 2, but nobody's gonna fund this. Nobody's gonna make this happen or whatever. You could just be like, that's really cool. You meet the right person, and you're like, yeah, I'll make it for you. Just fund it. We'll try to obviously make your money back, but maybe it breaks even, maybe it doesn't, but you'll get this movie. And you could also say, like, you get your name on the credits. You funded this, you made this vision happen, or whatever they want. And some investors too, they just want to be a part of the journey. Maybe they want to come hang out, they want to be at parties, but choose your investors very wisely, and you have to have the terms clearly written down and have a legal review on whatever that is. Be very clear when you get the terms on what it is and what it is not. It's so easy because once somebody gives you money under some assumption, you can be indebted to them. Are they expecting it back? Is it a gift? How does that work? How do you claim it? All that stuff. But it's just just another idea of opening your mind. And even if it's not an individual one rich investor, what you can do too is you do crowdsourcing. If somebody gives you $5, somebody gives you $50, some gives you $10, and it's like the Kickstarter method where they already like what you're doing, and you get crowdfunding to create the next thing for the people. And you find some way, maybe you include all their names in an NFT or something, showing that they were a part of making this piece of art come to life for you. These are just the ways that you can use your creativity beyond only the music aspect. And then that's the other portion of this, is that you need to decide what lane you're going to be in. Because if you're in a band, that's where the personalities and conflicts can come into play, where somebody's typically the head of the band, like they created the concept and design, and you gotta kind of let that person be the lead. If you have people butting heads always on it, it's a bad issue. It's not gonna work. I tend to think of it as kind of the lead songwriter or the visionary of the band, and they might not even be the front man of the band, but that role is there. And then like traditional bands, you have a guitar player, bass player. If your guitar player is always trying to do drums and other things like that, yeah, there's some bands that switch around, but generally you need each person to stick in their lane. Just like when you build your team. I was working with somebody recently who, they have a lot of experience in the radio industry, but they don't understand streaming nearly as much, or the digital marketing side. And I'm like, what you have is because you used to go on tour with all these big new metal bands, go around the world, do all that. You have the personal connections with all of those people. I need you there for that. Give me the connections with the best people in the industry who would be right for my music. I want you to do that. And then I can show you who the best digital marketing people are, because I follow that type of stuff. It's just figure out a strategy. There's a way to do these things. You just have to have the fortitude and the power to just make it through, because it's not going to be easy. And I'll leave you with this: the most important out of all the things that you can do is believe in yourself.